Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Mindrise podcast. I'm your host, Bailey Fruman, psychotherapist, coach, and author of Own Your Power, as well as the founder at Mindrise. So today you're in for a special treat. Today I'm going to be joined by special guest, spiritual therapist, and master energy healer, Stephanie Moore. She is a rock star. Today's topic is all about taking a good look in the mirror and how we can move away from being our inner bully, which we all have, into being our inner best friend. So let me tell you a little bit about Stephanie. Stephanie Moore is the owner and lead practitioner of Mind, Body, Spirit in Balance, a holistic healing center based in New Jersey. Stephanie is a born and raised Canadian who moved to the US and graced us with her presence in 2015. She has helped hundreds of people throughout the US, Canada, UK to find their true purpose, their potential, their peace of mind over her 15 years of experience as a master energy healer, spiritual therapist, and guide and body worker. Through her extensive training in many healing realms, Stephanie utilizes the appropriate modality or modalities to target the issue at hand, from acute and chronic physical pain to even those emotional traumas. And she treats the body as a whole, the mind, body, and spirit. Stephanie is also a certified yoga teacher and resident energy healer and body worker at the famed Island Yoga in Aruba. Stephanie is dedicated to facilitating growth and evolution in her clients' consciousness, allowing them to live their best life through their soul's purpose. So here's the deal, guys. For many years, I would have told you that energy work was just woo-woo, but the truth is that in order to climb high in your life and in your career, you need to take care of yourself. And that really means doing that inner work, really healing that deep inner shit that we all have. So I invite you to dive in and join me in this conversation with Stephanie Moore as we look in the mirror to heal and discover our true selves. Well, and I think we should just jump in from there, because that's the truth of it. Is many times we see someone's Instagram, we see their Insta stories, we see their gorgeous filters or their trips or their experience, and we're telling ourselves a story of must be nice or lucky them. Mm-hmm. And that's not the truth.
But what would be better is if we actually said, I can have that too.
Yes.
Because I'm the same as her. She's no different from me. She's no better than me. I'm the same as her. Mm-hmm. So let me use that Insta story as motivation.
Right.
As a permission slip to grant myself the ability to know that I'm good enough to want that and to go after that and to achieve that.
Right.
That's my goal. My goal is not to show off. My goal is to say, look what you can have if you believe. Right? Right. Look what you can have if you believe, because by rights, I have a couple of childhood friends that they'll call me once in a while and they'll be like, I think that based on what I know to be true about your childhood, there's this part of me that still thinks I'm going to be visiting you in a psych ward, wrapped in a straitjacket, rocking in the corner on some crazy meds just to get through the day.
Right.
Because they've seen it firsthand.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So, Steph, when did you decide to believe in yourself? Is that something that you were born with?
No.
Have a couple of WTF life. All right, no. It's up to you or them. I got to figure this out.
Yeah, no, I definitely wasn't born with it, because my story starts from some weird moment in 1969 when my parents got together for a one-night stand. And I think smoked a little bit too much or drank a little bit too much. And I was conceived under that premise. And because they were both raised by two parents of very strict Catholics, they were told to do the right thing and to have this baby and get married and raise this child. And from the day that I was conceived, I was unwanted. I was an unwanted pregnancy. My mother didn't want me, and my dad at 19 certainly didn't want me. A tall, 6'2", good-looking man that was, happy to be sowing his seed everywhere. And quickly that marriage dissolved. My dad left when I was 2. Right. And my mom came into the knowing, which she says she knew from a very young age, that she was gay. She's a lesbian. So she resented the fact that she had this child. that she had to take care of, and the financial burden, because my dad was at the time, well, was a deadbeat, didn't offer any financial help. So my mom really struggled. She really struggled with being so young and the financial aspect of it. And I was just sort of sent to my room a lot to deal with life. And I sort of never really felt like I had a place. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have any other siblings. I never really learned how to relate and interrelate with people. So it was a really, really tough childhood. And on top of that, I had to cover up for my mom. I had to cover up for, in the 70s, it wasn't, I don't want to say cool, but it wasn't, you couldn't just say my mom's a lesbian the way you can now.
Right, not common.
Right, not common at all. So there was a lot of, well, that's my mom's best friend, and she's just staying over for a little while. And then I guess what added to that was the fact that most of these women that my mom dated didn't really like me either, because I was in the way, and I was mistreated by a lot of them. There was a lot of emotional abuse. So it was like this piling on top of piling of emotional insecurities, I guess. And I ended up really searching for love in boyfriends. So when it became apparent to me that I could use my looks as a, quote unquote pretty girl in high school,
Sure.
to try and find affection and love that I never received from my father, I took that route and, searched for it that way, and searched for it that way in a long, long time, to no end, right? And to no fruition. That was really, really a tough time for me. Yeah.
Well, and as you're talking, Steph, like what I kept dropping in for me is like capacity, right? Like your parents got together, they didn't have the capacity with which to parent. Like
Correct.
they didn't have the capacity to adult themselves, and then didn't have the capacity to parent. And then like as you share more and more of a story, it's like you kept coming up against people that just didn't have the capacity to hold space for you.
No. So I never knew how to hold space for myself. And I never knew what it was like to hold space, to have space held for me by anyone else. Yeah. So I kind of developed like a little bit of a princess complex, I think, when I first got married to my husband, who did in fact, love me very much. But I would have this notion like, well, what can you do for me? And how can you make my life better? And what can you give me and buy for me? And how can you provide for me and hold space for me and do all these things that my dad never did for me? And that's too much to ask for from any human being.
Right.
And our marriage quickly, after having 3 kids very close together, 3 boys under the age of 5, was quickly crumbling because there was no real foundation that we had built it on. And I learned at that point that the unhappiness that I was feeling could be quelled by food. And I ate and I ate and I ate. And I raged and I raged and I raged until I was nearly 300 pounds. And we pretty much had divorce papers in hand. And
wow.
Yeah, I knew then that something drastically had to change. And he said, I'm going to send you somewhere for a date night, like on your own, like not a date night, but like a spa day. And he sent me for what was called then a Reiki massage. He thought it was going to be a massage. He thought it would calm me down. It wasn't a massage. And when I went there and she said, no, you don't take your clothes off for this. This is, and hands-off healing. I was like, oh, he's like messed up again. And like, here we go. But that experience for me was absolutely life-changing. And that was how I knew then that was something that I needed to know in my life. And that started the whole trajectory of my entire life turning around. So after I received that energy healing from that woman that day, which was a feeling that I had never known before, a peace had come over me, a sensation of lightness and knowing and wholeness and alignment and groundedness and like the possibility that everything was going to be okay. And I'd never felt like that kind of peace before. And I knew then and there that I wanted to know how to do what she did. And I wanted to do it to my family so that I could help to save us and put us on a path of healing. And I quit my job in corporate Canada and I became an energy healer. And I worked with a Reiki master that helped me to look at myself. So through her eyes, I was able to be seen. And she was able to literally stand me in front of a mirror and ask me, what do you see? And I remember very clearly at that moment breaking down and hating what I saw physically and emotionally and spiritually, and having even a really hard time looking at myself and seeing my own soul at that moment and wanting so much for it to be different and changing it. So through mirror work, through soul work, through shadow work, through a lot of role play. We role played a lot of experiences in my life with my father and my mother, where we changed the dynamic of what was said and what was done so that we could heal those traumas and those patternings in my life. And she taught me all that. And that's how I got to be where I am now.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, yoga was introduced to me through, another different venue. And the coming together of all of those things for me was like a 180. And I was able to then become a healed person. So then I could heal others. So the beginning was tragic.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how I feel like when I speak with women, I can hear their story, I can hear the pain, and I can say, I know exactly where you are because I am you. I am you at this moment. Yeah, we are the same. Yeah.
Right. Steph, and I want to put a bookmark on talking about trauma, because I think that that's something that we're not really talking about much, and how it then like plays out. But before we go there, one of the things that dropped in for me, I was actually thinking about this morning is, people say like, wow, how do you get on stage? Or wow, how do you help people? And I don't think that anybody who could be considered a healer or a leader or a speaker, guru, whatever, I don't think that those people have had an easy road.
Never.
Right? I certainly know that
No.
when I connect and when I speak, it's because I know what pain really feels like.
Correct.
And it sounds like for you, when you tell them like, I am you, like, I get it.
Yeah.
You can only get it because you have felt the range of emotions of everything from that desperation to that sadness to the emptiness to that loneliness to that hope, that like little bit of hopefulness to the rise, like, and everything in between. It's like all the keys on the keyboard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And one of the things that I'll often say as, women are pulling the Kleenexes out one after the other, like, I'm so sorry that I'm crying. I can't believe I'm crying so much. I can't believe I'm telling you this. It's like, this is why I buy my Kleenex in bulk, right?
This is why I go to Costco.
Right? Because like, this is what I do. This is to give you permission to allow the things that have been holding you back from being all that you can be, and let it all go, and understand that you're not alone in how you feel. And I can sit here and look at you while you're crying and smile like on my face and in my heart, because I know for sure that you don't need to stay here, and that you're not going to stay here if you're willing to do the work. That's such a beautiful moment.
It is a beautiful moment. And I've, one of the reasons why I wanted Steph to come on and be part of our podcast is I've done work with Stephanie, and it's been amazing, which is interesting, after you've been a therapist and you've seen therapists and you have coaches and all of that. And then when you work with someone that's able to hold that space and hold that container. And I remember doing mirror work with you and looking in the mirror and having my own breakdown, but being on the other side of that experience, knowing that that was so transformational.
Yes, it often is. It's often that real turning point where women get to truly see a part of their soul that, maybe they've been denying or dismissing, or not had the chance to soul gaze with, or really have it right in front of them like that something goes off. They have that, what Oprah calls an aha moment, where they just don't want to stay there anymore. They're just not willing to stay stuck in that place anymore. It's just not meant for them. It happened just this morning, just an hour ago. And it's just like so beautiful to witness over and over and over again. Yeah.
Well, and women and men alike, because I know that you work with both women and men, and the release, that cathartic release, isn't just like exclusive to women because they can tap into their emotional space. Like that's all accessible to us. So can you speak from that space of like being able to tap into that emotional reserve?
Yeah, with regards to men, you mean? Or So like the population of men that I see tend to be very career-driven men, a lot of Wall Street men. It just happens to be that way because it started out that way, and then they would refer their friends on Wall Street. So there happens to be a big population that comes from Wall Street. And these men come in impeccably dressed, like not a hair out of place. So that what I'm saying is, if you were to look at them, you'd be like, they've got it all together. They drive the Range Rover, they look the part, they're incredibly good looking, they have the beautiful wife, they have the 2.5 car garage, like, check.
Right.
But when they stand in front of the mirror, right, you see the shoulders slump, and you see the bottom lip start to quiver, right? And then you hear them say, like, I can hear my own father's voice right now telling me, you're not enough. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. Try harder, work harder. Why did you get an A-? You should have got an A+. Why didn't you throw the touchdown? You should have ran 45 yards instead of 37 yards. Like, they can hear it. At 30, 35, 40 years of age, they still hear what they heard at 7, 10, 11, 12 years old. And that broken little boy is still within them. But all they've ever been told is, suck it up, boys don't cry, put on a happy face, toughen up your skin, pull up your bootstraps, like all those things. And they're afraid to appear broken. And yet if they don't move through the brokenness, they're never actually going to heal. So to give them permission at that moment to slump and say, it's okay to feel what you're feeling, and here's some Kleenex, and to let that breakdown happen, is so beautiful. I don't know, to see, to witness, and to allow happen, and to hear what effects it has, not only on them but their careers, their stress levels, their ability to speak to their wives, how they talk to their children, how they can find patience after that, because they've forgiven that part of themselves that wishes anything were any different. And that's pretty freaking beautiful to me.
It is pretty beautiful. And, for everyone who's listening, many times we'll hear this and we're like, oh, hell no. I do not want to look in a mirror and cry. Like, not looking to do that. But what I want to, invite everyone, it's a gateway. It's the gateway to the other side. So all that stuff that you've been carrying heavy on your back, like in order to put that shit down, it's like, this is the work that needs to be done so you can get to that other side.
Right. And I try, and I make it very clear that, like, I'm right there with them. Like, I don't know if you remember, Bailey, but with every person, I'm right beside you with the mask on now these days, but I'm right there with you with my arm around you, like gripping you firmly to let you know I've got your back here. Like, you're not standing there alone in your aloneness, in your nakedness, seeing, looking into your own eyes. And I prompt you every step of the way. And if it's only that day, all you can bear to do is look at yourself, and then the next day you see me, you can bear to say, I see you, or maybe even I love you. And then eventually we move to I forgive you. And then, the ultimate of, you're brave and powerful and sacred and divine, and you're needed here on earth, and everything's going to be okay. Like, it's really, really going to be okay if you can just breathe, if you can just slow down, if you can just forgive yourself for ever thinking that you ever did anything wrong, that everything's unfolding in this way to get you to this moment right here, right now. And that's okay. Like, all of it's just okay. And can you be okay with that okayness? Like, if we could just be softer with ourselves, if we could speak to ourselves the way we speak to, you and I both have children, the way we spoke to our toddlers when they were learning how to walk. Like, you've got it. Keep coming to mommy. One more step. You're going to be fine. Don't worry that you fell down. Just get up again. It's okay. But why, as adults, are we so hard on ourselves and so impatient with our growth? We're just like, oh, it's never going to happen. It's never going to work because it didn't work this first time.
Right. And I was actually just going to ask you that, Steph. Like, why do you think we avoid it? Like, why do you think that we avoid doing the work for so long? And what do you think brings us to
uncomfortable?
Right, because it's hard.
It's so freaking uncomfortable. And I think what brings us to it is time and wisdom, and that we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? And it's finally become too much. And I think usually people come to see me when there's like a rock bottom, right? When a relationship has failed, when they have divorce papers in hand, or when they have just been diagnosed with a really life-threatening illness, or they've lost someone that they love and they weren't able to say the things that they wanted to say. That's really traumatic for a lot of people. And years and years and years later, there's people still, like 7 years later, I regret that I never got to say, I love you to my dad. I never said those 3 words the entire time he lived, and he never said them to me. And I wish so much I could go back and have had the chance to say, I love you. And for years, people live in regret over something like that. And to hold a mirror up to yourself and be like, it's okay that you didn't do it. Because the reality of it is that some people never even have the chance to love someone so much, or love a father so much, that their entire day is consumed by the fact that they wish they had have told them how much they love them, And you can just flip the perspective on it. Rather than lamenting the past and wishing it were any different, you can be like, but I had someone in my life that I loved so much that I wish I could have just said those words. Like, that's a beautiful thing.
Right.
So I'm there to just offer that little change in what your mind wants you to think, which is always going to be part of the ego mind, right? That wants you to suffer a little bit, that comes from your broken inner child self. And be like, well, what if you saw it this way? And it's a way that you're never usually going to come up with on your own.
Oh, right. Because you've been going through the patterning and business as usual. Yeah. I actually talked to a client this morning, and he was telling me a story and about an interaction and about a criticism that somebody had put upon him. We talked about triggers for a minute, and I just said, like, listen, like, I'm not about to co-sign on you having a perception that you are broken. Yes, this person put a criticism upon you for analysis. It doesn't mean that you are broken or wrong or selfish or bad. And I think that in many ways, we're so apt to try and figure out where we screwed it up, where we went wrong, what we should have done differently, almost like taking on this culpability that's not entirely ours. But I think especially as achievers, we have a tendency to do that, assume more responsibility or blame than we should, because if we do that, then somehow we're still in control because we can fix it.
Right.
We can fix it. So stuff like on the other side of the coin, that's not exactly healing, right?
No.
That's still gripping tightly.
It is. It is. And the healing comes from letting go. The healing comes from letting go into the what is and the acceptance of what is, and not wishing anything were ever different. That's the real healing, is looking back at everything and having, what's called radical acceptance of what is. And if you can really do that, that for sure is the key to peace of mind, is not wishing anything were any different than it actually was, and being okay with that. I mean, of course, I wish I had a loving father. Of course, I wish my mom wanted me and loved me. But when I look back at all of the gifts I have from not knowing that, not knowing love from my own mother is what has made me so fiercely loving towards my own boys. Because I know for sure what it feels like to be unloved by a mother.
Right.
And it's been a goal of mine to make sure that they never experience that. And that maybe I go over and above and I'm like, like, how do you feel? And how did it feel when mommy lost her shit, because you left a towel on the floor or whatever, like maybe I'm a little bit like, and they're like, oh, but like,
Right.
I might not be so aware if my mom coddled me and was, at every, was at my graduation or, or, said you're good enough and you're beautiful and you're fine just as you are. Maybe I wouldn't be so in tune with other people. Maybe I wouldn't have had this path in my life. So in that way, when I look back, my mom was the perfect mom for me. She was the mom that I picked before I was even conceived and made my way on that cosmic journey to get here on this earth. Like, for sure I picked her, because I wouldn't be here doing this podcast with you if she wasn't my mom.
Right.
If I had Laura Ingalls, like a Little House on the Prairie mom, I don't know what I'd be doing. Who knows what I'd be doing, but it certainly wouldn't be this.
Right. Well, Steph, you bring up a really good point that we could talk about in concept, but I think that we need to also talk about it in the dynamic of the feminine and the masculine of energy sources, because the concept of acceptance, right? Accepting what is. Yes. I think that the masculine perspective, and that's not necessarily on like physical gender identification lines. We all have masculine and feminine within us. I know I tend to default to the masculine of like, secure the perimeter, target the goal. Where's my checklist? Right. But the masculine's like, okay, acceptance. Okay, if that's my duty, like, how do I do this? How, right? Whereas, and correct me if I'm wrong, with the feminine is like, okay, acceptance. How do I what do I feel through this?
Yes. How do I soften into the knowledge of this?
Right. How do I make this feel safe so I can soften? Mm-hmm. So Correct. When we talk about acceptance, like let's dive a little bit deeper into that, because as we earmarked before, we in many ways avoid talking about and identifying our trauma, but that shit plays itself out like over and over and over and over again.
Right. And I always equate that to, because that's shadow work, right? That's when your soul wounds keep, and Oprah has this great thing. She's like, the universe will like whisper to you, and then it will like shout at you, and then it will like slap you on the head, and then will like knock you out. And so shadow works the same way, but I equate it like when you deny or dismiss something and be like, everything's fine, I'm going to be just fine. And that's kind of your masculine side that says, just keep going and don't worry about all the things over there that feel uncomfortable and weird or whatever. That's, to me, I always say, there's a couple of ways that I equate it to my clients when we're together. So I'll say, it's like, imagine holding a beach ball underwater. Like, really imagine yourself at the shore in New Jersey with a beach ball, and you got to hold it under the water. Imagine how much energy that takes. Well, that's just one soul wound. One soul wound is one beach ball. If you've got another soul wound, you've got abandonment, you've got rage, you've got betrayal, and you're trying to move through your life, right? So my job is instead, or another thing I'll say, actually in person, I will say, because I have all of my crystals lying out of my selenite. So when I do sometimes crystal healing, I'll be like, tell me what you feel. And they'll be like, I feel anger. So I'll hand them one crystal. What else do you feel? Well, I feel mistrust towards that person. I'll hand them another crystal. And then they'll tell me all the things they feel. I feel unseen or whatever. And I'll say, okay, take all those crystals now. and go outside and put them inside your shoe. And then put your shoe on and then just have a little walk around my property and see how that feels. Because legit, that's what you're doing to yourself when you're not healing all of those wounds.
100%. 100%. Let's
You're
put
like
some
crippled.
rocks in your shoes and see how
Right?
you feel.
How it
Right.
feels.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You wouldn't put the rocks in your shoes and go out for a run.
Correct. But people think, oh, I'll just do it. Like, I just won't look. So when it comes to the beach balls, I say my job is to teach you to go under the Jersey Shore ocean water, which isn't the cleanest water in the world, but whatever. It's not like you can see to the bottom. Right. Okay. Pick up the beach ball and like look at it and examine it and see all the different parts of it and learn to love it. Like the way I learned to love being unloved, the way I learned to love the abandonment of a father, because it taught me to be independent. It taught me that I didn't actually need that. I didn't need the recognition of a man to stand tall, and I still don't. I appreciate it, but I don't need it. And because I had a father that didn't give that to me, didn't give me my sense of self, I had to find it from within. So I took that beach ball, and now if I'm at the Jersey Shore or in Aruba, if I hold that beach ball like this and lie back on top of the water, that can actually be a life preserver. It could actually be buoyant and save my life. It could actually change everything about my life. And that's how I try and illustrate it. It's like, it doesn't need to be something that you have to keep hidden away in some dark corner of your mind. It can be something that you can look squarely in the face and be like, maybe it's not that bad. It's like when I used to watch The Exorcist, I used to be like, oh my gosh, I can't. I'd like turn the channel quick, like, until I had this great boyfriend in university that said, Stephanie, come and sit down. I'm going to pause the television. At that time, it was like a VCR probably. And we're going to look at her face, right? The face that was so scary to me. And he's like, clearly that's a bad makeup job. And look at the latex feeling here. And that's for sure pea soup. And look at the wig falling apart there. And like, look at the bad prop in the background that they didn't push it. And he broke it down for me so that it didn't invoke that crazy feeling of fear. And that's what I try and do. I try and be like, it's okay. It's okay that you have this part of you that you've been scared to look at. Let's just look at it.
Right.
And I promise you, it's not as scary as you think it is.
Right.
And that's when the radical acceptance comes in. And that's when the permission slip comes in to say, you know what? I really am okay. Actually, I'm better than okay. Yeah. Actually, I'm worthy. I'm worth my weight in gold. And that's self-efficacy comes then. And that's when, yeah.
Well, that's the holy grail everyone's seeking. Like,
yes.
The thing that we're seeking so much is not that affirmation from everyone else around us. It's that affirmation within us, the one that we're so willing to give out to everyone else.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
It's like, that's what we're seeking, but we rarely have a name to it.
Yes.
So, Steph, before we wrap up, can you talk about the practice of eye gazing? Because what we're talking about, standing in the mirror and having the experience with you, it's incredible. And I want everyone to know that that's not so far out of your reach. Like, you can do this yourself. So let's talk about the practice of eye gazing, but let's also talk about why we avoid doing it.
Yes, because look, like anybody that's come in front of the mirror to me, like, they'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And I'll say, but you do this every day, right? You put your makeup on every day, you brush your teeth every day, and they're like, yeah, but I don't look at myself. And it's the pause, and it's the quiet, and it's the asking someone to look into their own eyes that takes you to a different level, because you need to be seen by your own eyes. Yes, we all hold space, and it's easy to be there for your best friend who just lost their mother, or someone who's, been diagnosed with something, and like all of a sudden you're the most compassionate person in the world. But to do that for yourself, that's asking a whole nother level of knowing that everything you ever need is already inside of you. It's not outside of you. So it's about not looking at your eyebrows. It's about not looking at your gray roots. It's about not looking at the coffee stain on your shirt. It's about looking into your own eyes in a way that's filled with such deep understanding and compassion and okayness and acceptance. And starting from a place that just says, I see you. Like, that's all you need to say at the beginning is just, I see you and you're real and I'm here. And maybe I wasn't here for you up until now, but I'm here now. And we can start from that place. And then, we move on, to these affirmations that say, I really love you. Like, I really, really love you and I've got you. And I know for sure that everything's going to be okay. And we build up from that place, that we tell ourselves something very specific about what's going on in our lives. Like, it's okay that you lost it with your children. It's okay that you didn't get to say what you needed to say to your dad. It's okay that, you didn't forgive so-and-so for what they did. And can you forgive yourself for ever thinking that any of that unfolded in a way that should have been any different? Because it's all okay. And these are the words that we wish that our parents could have said to us, but just didn't have the information or the capability usually to say to us. And we heal something within ourselves at that moment that was broken from our childhood, and that helps to heal us in the way we see ourselves in the mirror going forward. And then if you can pair that with a very specific affirmation about what's particularly or specific going on in your life right now, then it becomes this really specialized mantra that's curated just for you to help override that subconscious programming that's been keeping you stuck in a place that's not meant for you.
Right. And the word that kept coming in for me as you're talking is like regard and reverence, like looking at yourself with that space of reverence.
Yes.
And with eye gazing, this doesn't have to be an hour-long process.
Oh, no. No,
right?
We're talking like a few minutes. And it's just like stillness. It's just pause. Right. It's pause. Yeah. And it's just going deep, right? Into like a deep pause where you can see yourself for what you really, really are. And that means the parts of yourself that don't appear, as you wish they would. And that's always going to be that way. We're never going to look at ourselves and think we're perfect. But to see that and be like, I love that part of you anyway. To me, that's miraculous. That's where the magic really, really happens. Is I see all those parts of you that I've been wishing were different my whole life. And I'm just going to be okay with it being okay, just as it is. That's the compassion that's been missing,
Right. And that's a gift that, to your point, it's if it was already given to us, yes, we might not need to cultivate that for ourselves. And just because the intention is to cultivate that for ourselves doesn't mean that we were broken. It means that in our life, we desire to live the full spectrum of our life, right? Use all the colors in the crayon box, play all the keys on the piano, because we deserve that depth of life. So,
right. Because what's the alternative to not explore and expand and live into the greatness from which we were surely born from? I mean, there's some infinite intelligent wisdom from which we were born, where our cells divided in our mother's womb, where acorns grow into oak trees. Like, there's some intelligent energy, especially as an energy healer, that I believe in, that animates all things. Right. And if we can tap into that and allow that to move us into our own greatness for what we're literally put here on earth to realize. And the alternative to that is to stay small. And that's that's not serving neither you nor the people around you. And when you do finally give your permission slip to yourself, to grow into your own greatness, it has this beautiful ripple effect on the people, not only that are around you, but maybe even more so than that, like a butterfly effect on thousands and thousands of women, maybe across the world, because you chose in that moment, instead of shrinking, to stand tall, right? And in my workshops, I get everybody up, whether we're in person or virtually, I get them up and I tell them to stand like Wonder Woman. We stand with our hands on our hips and we put our chins off and we stare off into the horizon. And, you know, inevitably people giggle and feel really great about themselves. And I've you know, done that with a bunch of people in the mirror, and I say, how do you feel right now? And they say, I feel like I've wanted to feel like this for a long, long time, but I just didn't know how. And
Right.
that's when we give ourselves permission to stand taller and be bigger and be greater and be okay with that and enjoy that. Like, that's pretty cool.
It's amazing. And that, you know, really goes full circle in our conversation, is that many times we're scrolling Instagram, we see, oh, look how many followers, or look, you know, how many likes or comments, or and we see that they must have something that we don't have. But
yes,
to your point, it's about belief. And all you really need to do is look in the mirror and have the same reverence for yourself. This is not something that you don't know how to do. You've held this reverence for other people in your life. Like,
that's right.
It's about you need to give it onto yourself.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And I believe, like, from a very small start, when, you know, when I first moved here from Canada just over 5 years ago, to, I mean, the first year that I ever opened my business, I won the best in Hunterdon County for healing under wellness, against some of the biggest holistic healing centers that have been around for 20 years with like 20 employees. And people would say, like, how did that happen? And I think it's because when we give from the heart, when we heal from the heart, and when everything we do is genuine. And what my Reiki master told me was, can you fall in love with everyone that lies on your table? And if you can truly do that, then the sky's the limit. And for me, that's what's been magical about my practice, is that there's no marketing involved. There's like, I have a zero marketing budget.
You have no marketing. She has
right?
none. There's none happening.
It's just word of mouth. And like, I can't, like, for me, nothing is more beautiful to me than that, because it means one person trusted me enough to take care of someone that they love by saying, please go see Stephanie. She will love you. Right? Like, so I think anybody can achieve great success if they do it from a heart-centric place, if they do it from a place of love and not wanting anything else but love to be the end result.
Right. And that's what I would say. So no, there's no flashy marketing that has happened for you. But your impact has grown and created a ripple effect just by you showing up and being you. And it was through your face down in the dirt moments. It was from, you know, having to find yourself, because who you were and your sense of worthiness was not delivered to you on a silver platter. And that's something that we can all achieve. It's all within us, male, female, you know, different ages, different socioeconomic, different careers. It's about taking a look in the mirror and deciding who you are and what you deserve and what you're capable of, and truly loving yourself in that gaze.
Yes. Love yourself so you can heal yourself. Yes.
Love yourself so you can heal yourself. Beautiful. Steph, thank you so much for being on with us. Yay!
I love you.
Love you. Okay, so being that she doesn't market at all, everybody, Steph, tell everybody where they can find you if they're looking to check you out.
On Instagram, which is where I am most of the time. I'm a real Insta story kind of person. I'm at Mind, Body, Spirit in Balance. So at Mind, Body, Spirit in Balance. That's also my TikTok, which I'm not on very often, but that is my TikTok, or www.mindbodyspiritinbalance.com, Stephanie at mindbodyspiritinbalance.com.
Awesome. 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 And yeah, we'll put all that stuff in the show notes so you guys can find
Thank
Steph,
you. Thank
experience
you.
some of her magic. And thank you so much for being on with us today.
I loved talking to you. It was so lovely to see your beautiful face. You know, I adore you. And I can't wait to see you in real life and give you a squeeze with masks
Absolutely.
on.
But of course, thank you.